So I've been doing the upper lower split for the last 2 years, and here's what happened. I unlocked the 1-arm pull-up, 200-pound weighted dip for 3 reps, 420-pound back squat for 3, and continue to refine my handstand push-ups, technique, and form. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly why you need to start doing the upper lower skill split. So if you don't know already, I'm a calisthenics-based guy with a huge emphasis on weighted calisthenics. But that's not all I do. I also implement weight training for my upper body, but more importantly, my legs. And to be honest, the question that I get a lot is, how can I implement calisthenics and weights? Now, similar to me, a lot of my clients or those who I create custom programs for, or simply just a casual viewer, want to figure out a way how to customize their specific program by implementing calisthenics and weight training, but with the emphasis of calisthenics as the foundation. Because at the end of the day, we either started off with just calisthenics and then, like me, transition on to like doing more of a hybrid style approach, utilizing weights to supplement our calisthenic training, or you've been doing weight training and want to implement calisthenics more into your routine so you can get that strong yet aesthetic physique. The answer to that is to start utilizing the upper lower split in addition to a skill and accessory day. So this is going to be consisting of a 5-day training split. 2 days specifically for the upper body, another 2 days for your lower body, and then 1 day specifically focused on skills and accessory work. And from an optimal strength and muscle building standpoint, I definitely do believe that this split does target everything that you need to do in order to grow. This includes training a muscle group 2 times per week while getting adequate rest in between each trained muscle group. But let's dive a little bit deeper into the individual sessions before we explain why this is the best for a hybrid training approach utilizing calisthenics and weights. So starting off the week, I like to train the skills first. For example, my primary skills are the planche and full front lever. Now, I won't get into too much detail, but I usually have 4 exercises in total as far as my skill training. So 2 of them being for planche and another 2 being for the front lever. And usually I like to superset my pushing and pulling exercises together as well to cut down on time. And before you ask, no, this won't affect your performance on either exercises as long as you're resting properly in between the transition of the superset and after the superset. So for example, if I just finish a set, take the planche for example, and I'm about to transition on to the next exercise, like the front lever, I make sure I rest about 30 seconds before I superset it, right? But after I complete that superset and do the planche or front lever together, then I like to rest up for 3 to 5 minutes for my working sets. If you do that, you should be straight in terms of like optimizing performance and recovery. Now, after I finish my skill training, I also like to focus on training my core, which for now is the dragon flags because it does mimic the same body positioning similar to that of my skills. But I'm not gonna lie, if I'm short on time, I usually skip this part of the exercise because if I'm being completely honest, I honestly haven't trained the dragon flags for about 3 to 4 weeks in terms of like really training it for 3 to 4 sets. So that's just me being transparent with y'all. But now what I do stay consistent with is my accessory work. So yes, just like a bodybuilder, man, I'm also sculpting my body with accessory work, utilizing weights. So the whole point of having a skill and accessory days for me to not only focus on my skill training as a calisthenic athlete, but also focus on any neglected muscle groups that's been not adequately hit with the compounds or any specifically weak muscle groups that I find in my own physique. So it's a very fun day for me because I get to pick and choose exactly what I want to do and kind of just like go from there. So in my case, my neglected muscle groups is going to be the lateral delt of my shoulders and also the brachialis of my biceps. So what I like to choose is to start doing bench supported lateral raises with the dumbbells. And then also I like to start doing the hammer curls with dumbbells to kind of just focus more on that brachialis engagement. So that's essentially like a lot of forearm and getting more width in the biceps too. So technically I could do neutral grip pull-ups, like weighted neutral grip pull-ups, but I'm currently focusing on just the chin-ups, and because my gyms doesn't have like the correct setup for neutral grip position, it's just not going to be like effective for me. So I technically can't do a neutral grip pull up on a consistent basis, you know? So yeah, man, having that skill and accessory day is great for focusing on your calisthenic training, specifically to skills, and then putting that bodybuilder perspective, you know, having some isolation exercises for any neglected or weak muscle groups that you want to bring up. Moving on to my second workout of the week, it's going to be my first upper body day. So this is going to be utilizing a strength-based approach. meaning I'm going to be training with heavy loads and lower reps. For example, my primary lifts are going to be the weighted dips, weighted chin-ups, and also the freestanding handstand push-up. And honestly, as of the last 3 to 4 months, that's really all I've been doing in terms of like my compound work. I know I'm not hitting all the movement patterns that I would like program or talk about on the platform, like the vertical push pull, horizontal push pull. It's just because I'm at a point in my training career and like calisthenics journey that I'm getting so specific that I have the leeway to just leave certain movement patterns, because if we be honest, my physique is pretty good, right? Like I'm comfortable with my physique. All I'm focusing on now is just getting strong. So whether that's like absolute strength, relative strength, I'm just trying to get strong out here. So specificity is key in terms of like specific strength on a movement that you want to like master, you know? So then after my compounds, I then like to focus on, yet again, the isolations, utilizing weights for any neglected muscle groups that hasn't been optimized in terms of like engagement. So for example, I'm doing weighted chin-ups, so I like to focus on isolating my biceps as my primary isolation exercise. And then I'm doing weighted dips and handstand push-ups. So the neglected muscle group of that is going to be the triceps. So I like to isolate my triceps using weights as well for my second isolation exercise. But to kind of like even dive a little bit more deeper and be more specific, the weighted chin-ups, right? The movement itself does target the long head of the biceps, but it is based off like what I noticed, more short head biased. So it does target both heads of the bicep, but it just has a greater emphasis on the short head of the biceps, right? So I like to focus on isolating the long head of the biceps for my isolation exercise. So that's going to be utilizing the low cable curl with the machine. Then for my triceps, if you didn't know already, the dips is going to be, again, targeting the long head of the triceps, but it isn't going to be as much activation compared to that of the lateral or medial head of the triceps. So what I then do is isolate my triceps with weights for specifically the long head of the triceps. So that's going to be the overhead cable extension machine. So essentially I'm just like doing a extension with one hand with using the overhead position. So that's pretty much my first upper body day. I'm getting in my compounds, like the primary lifts. And then sometimes I do secondary compound movements like inverted rows or incline Smith machine press, but like I'm not consistent at that. So that said, after the compounds, isolate, and then that's the first upper body day. Then moving on to the third training session of the week, it's going to be my first leg day. And again, it's going to be a strength-based approach. So I'm doing heavier loads and lower repetitions. So last year I actually used to train the barbell back squat and got to a point where I was able to do 420 pounds for 3 reps. But one thing I did notice was it was time for me to switch it up and start implementing the barbell front squat. This is mainly because with the back squat, I have a low bar setup, which suited me best based on my anthropometry, as I have a long femur bone. And if you didn't know already, people will have varying squat mechanics. So if you're like me with a long femur and find a high bar barbell squat difficult, then the low bar squat is a better alternative. But the thing is, with the low bar squat, it puts more emphasis on the posterior chain, specifically like the glutes and lower back. And this is all due to the position of like where the barbell is at, and like the weight distribution is like put mainly on like your posterior chain. So that's like the muscles on the back of your body. So that being said, bringing in the front barbell squat into the equation, this is going to be biasing way more of the anterior chain because of the position of the barbell is going to be essentially in front of your body. So you're going to be activating more muscles particular to the anterior chain. Specifically with the front squats, that's going to be like the quads and your core as well. Plus, I would say it enables me to squat in a more natural position with more depths and arguably very similar quad activation compared to that of the high barbell squat. And another added benefit that I noticed was that I now have no lower back tension since training the front squat. Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I used to train the back squat, especially after my like triple heavy days, right, I would feel some kind of tension in my lower back. Nothing really crazy that would like signify some kind of injury, but it was just like kind of tight, right? Like I would literally have to like do dead hangs every single heavy squat day session. But like with the front squat, none of that. If anything, I think I feel just as good going into gym as I go out, except for like my quads being, you know, obviously sore, but that's good, right? That means I'm shifting the focus more on the quads, right? Which is exactly what I wanted to do. Plus with the low bar squat, it does put more emphasis on the glutes again, which for me, I have enough gains on my ass. I ain't trying to get that any bigger, no homo. But yeah, that's why I opted out for the front bar squat, you know? Then for my other primary compound lift, it's going to be a RDL, but I like to do the stiff-legged RDLs because with the stiff-legged RDLs, again, same reason as to why I don't want to do lower body squats. RDLs is specifically for like the glutes. It does engage the hamstrings as well, but with the stiff-legged, you're kind of having your legs more straight. So this is going to be focusing more on the hamstrings, less on the glutes. So again, I'm specifying exactly what I want to target, and with my goals and exercise selection, it just does that. So as for my isolations this time, kind of similar to what I did with the upper body, whatever is being neglected or not adequately isolated, I like to do that with the isolations. So I like to do leg extensions or reverse Nordic curls. For my hamstrings, after my stiff-legged deadlifts, I like to do hamstring machine curls or Nordic curls itself again. So after the isolations from my quads and hamstrings, I like to sprinkle in some lateral raises yet again, and also get in some calf raises, some juicy calves. You can't neglect that. All right. Especially if you do calisthenics, people get dogged out here for doing calisthenics and skipping legs. So I honestly don't skip legs, but I do know a couple of people who do. But anyways, that being said, this then leaves on to our other 2 days, which is going to be another upper day and another lower body day. But I'm not going to go into detail because I pretty much do the same exercises. All I'm doing is a more volume-based approach. So that means I'm doing either moderate progressions or moderate loads and higher repetitions. So literally the same exercises. Sometimes I like to switch out the isolations, but on a consistent basis, I like to do the same thing from the strength day, carrying it on over to the volume-based day. And the truth is, if you want to get to elite strength standards, you have to be training whatever exercise that you want to execute and specialize in at least 2 times a week, 3 times a week at best. But that kind of gives you less leeway and room to work around in terms of like switching around your exercises. So like honestly, dedicate, like for example, if you want to get better at weighted pull-ups, weighted dips, weighted chin-ups, whatever it is, you got to dedicate at least, I would say, 2 sessions per week and training for about up to a year, man. If you don't train that specific exercise for about a year, twice a week, then you're not really optimizing your strength performance and gains. So if you notice, I only mentioned that I did a dedicated skill and accessory day. So I train my planche and front lever to like the fullest extent, but that doesn't mean that I'm not doing any skill training. So what I actually like to do is to sprinkle in my skill training on my leg days. So for example, what I do on my first leg day, like the strength-based day, I do about 3 to 4 sets of moderate intensity planche and front lever work, whether that's me utilizing resistance bands, utilizing easier progressions, or doing like dynamic reps. And then again, on my second leg day, the hypertrophy or volume-based session, I like to do like a more lighter based intensity. So I use like thicker bands, more dynamic reps. I'm essentially trying to focus on just getting longer holds, more repetitions, utilizing like easier progressions or thicker bands. So I ideally like to stick within 2 training sessions minimally for my skills, but I do sometimes like to go up for that 3 times a week frequency, because I do find that, having it 3 times a week with varying intensities and rep ranges does suit best for calisthenic skills, specifically like the planche and the front lever. Like those are very advanced. So like you gotta get down to technique, which is very hard, but then a strength component is even harder to obtain too. So it's like frequency is going to be your best friend at this point, but you got to vary the intensity in terms of like how hard the exercise will feel. So hopefully by now you can kind of see why the upper lower skill split is best suited for those who train calisthenics and want to supplement weights for their overall training, because honestly, that's exactly what I did for the last 2 years now, and I found some great results. But hey, what do I know? If you want to see more content like this, be sure to follow me, man. I'm the Tough Fitness Scout here. No cap.
Cobra Trains, he's up next. Make sure y'all subscribe to him. He's number 1 out here.
He's the toughest fitness guy out here.